Hey there guys, I need to build an extension to my rip fence. I'm going to start cutting some pieces of very long lumber, and my current length of rip fence just isn't quite long enough for me to set up a good cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some MDF, I'm going to cut it out of a 4-foot sheet, and I'm going to cut it 2.5 inches tall, which matches the height of my rip fence. When you look at it from the top, what it's going to look like is a piece of MDF here and a piece of MDF here, connected by short little pieces of MDF. What this does is create a parallel fence that's an auxiliary. At 4 feet, that'll give me a lot of stability to set my piece as I pass it through the table saw. I'll cut these out and start assembly.
I didn't need a full 4x8 sheet of plywood for this project, so what I did is pick up a 2-foot by 4-foot sheet at the home center. I ended up cutting 3 strips at 2.5, and then used my crosscut sled to cut the inside pieces. I could have done that over at the power miter saw, but decided that this was going to be easier given all of the setup that I had on the saw done already. This fence is actually based on a project that I saw on a woodworking magazine, and they used it for stacked dado head cutters, but I thought it would be a perfect match for what I needed here. Now, from the ends of the 2 pieces of MDF, what I'm doing is setting up the start of the blocks, and then I put all the blocks together so that I could get an understanding of how much space I have in between, and just divided that by the equal number of spaces. I then went over to my chop saw and cut a piece as a spacer, and just went on down the line marking the points. In the very end, I probably had the last space a little shorter, but overall everything worked out. Now I extended all these lines to make sure that I had a spot for my drill so that I could pre-drill all the holes. Countersinking is extremely important with MDF, and later I'll sand off all the nibs that came up to the top from the countersink. The other thing that's important with this MDF is I'm drilling these on the face, but the ones that go in the center, I'm cutting them or drilling them on the edge, and that's problematic. They tend to tear or split. So I'll put on some glue first, and then I actually came back and added more glue, kind of thinking that this glue would be absorbed first, and then the second coat of glue would really hold better. Now, once everything was set, I did come back, like I said, and gave it additional glue, but it was time to put in some screws. And again, I got to be careful here because you're going to split that MDF inside, so I pre-drilled through that MDF. I did that along the entire length. Once I had all the pieces on one side drilled in, I went ahead and flipped the piece over, and this is much easier to do because gravity is helping you out. And again, just screwed down the line, being careful not to over tighten because that would tear or split the MDF in the center. And the glue here is really doing most of the work. With all of this done, I'm then going to take my sander and take off all those nibs. Just set it to 100 grit paper, no big deal. Did both sides. And here it is.
And there you have it. We've only extended our fence maybe 8.5 inches, but those first 8.5 inches are going to be crucial, especially when you're cutting a very long board. I hope you enjoyed this short video on how to create an auxiliary fence for your rip fence on your table saw that really becomes an extension so that you can rip longer pieces of wood. Join us next time on Rick's Woodworking to see what else we'll build.